I really hope it gets a lot of exposure because I think he's such a natural storyteller, and I think he really brings so much humor and history and personal struggle and success and humility, and I think that's such an amazing combination. So I think and I think it's so well put together, like visually and from the chapters and the flow of stories and the flow of so much of his life, and I just think it's really pleasant to read, and I think there's not a lot of biographies or autobiographies out there that touch on all those parts of life and are really fun to read. I think a lot of his humor and a lot of his charisma comes through in the book.
There have been many funny moments. I think for me, the funniest moments with my father has been when I've traveled with him, because he's a wonderful travel companion, but he has a tendency to have mishaps when he travels, and there isn't a train that you don't have to run for, and or an event that goes smoothly. He has, when I think about it, caused me more trauma traveling than just about anything. He has a tendency to vaporize in the most unusual circumstances. So, for example, at the Vatican, after touring the Sistine Chapel and St. Peter's and arriving in the square, he just vaporized. And we ended up with the Swiss guards looking for him and for searching various religious vestment stores and religious icon stores. And sure enough, there's an explanation after the fact. But if it was the only time that he vanished, it would be one thing. But he's done it several times, and it usually is at religious places like St. Paul's Cathedral, and poof, he's gone. And he materializes a couple of hours later, usually with a very interesting story.
In the early days, in the very, very beginning of digital telephone systems, we were in San Rafael, and payroll was very informal. Payroll was distributed by Lynn Woolsey in envelopes, and we had a young technician working for us whose last name was also Green and not related to Don. And the payroll checks happened to get switched. So the technician got Don's and payroll check, and Don got the technician. And he told me about it, and he said, he says, I think that the technician and I had the same thought when we opened our paychecks. He said, they're finally paying me what I'm worth.
I was a single mom. I was 29 years old. I had never, ever intended to go to work and leave my children. I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. Their father was bipolar and would not get help. So it was up to me to take my 1, 3, and 5-year-old children, go to work, and put our life back together. The first interview I had for a job at that point, after not working for 7 years, was with Don Green, and he hired me, and he added a steady influence into my life that at that time I needed very, very desperately. Somebody to depend on, and not personally, but in the world, the work world, and somebody I could count on, and somebody I could learn from.
One of my favorite Don stories has to do with why he sang in the choir, because I actually asked him the question at one point, because he was a busy guy, and traveling around a lot, and every Wednesday night he had to be a choir. So I asked him, why do you sing in the choir? What do you get out of it? And he said he loved the musical aspect of it, but one of the most important things that he got out of it was that it allowed him to go from his normal leadership role into just being a member, just being one of the group. with, you know, with skills, but not necessarily the greatest skills of anyone, and not necessarily having to assume a leadership function, and that it kind of gave him perspective when he went back into the situation where now he's the leader again in his professional life, that he's had the sense of just being one of the group. And I think that's important for leaders. And I've learned a lot about it kind of from him, and also just on my own, of the importance of, because I'm a leader as well, in a different context of finding situations where you can just be part of the group. It gives you perspective.
He's a wonderful travel companion because he's interested in the world, and he loves people, and he finds things fascinating, and that's a lot of fun to be with somebody that is that optimistic and adventurous.